everyone to tonight's Ordinary Council meeting. I'm Councillor Georgina Papafodio, the Mayor of Brimbank City Council. I declare this meeting open at 7 p.m. I would like to extend a warm welcome to members of the public who are viewing at home. Due to social distancing directives received from the state and federal governments, councillors will be attending this Ordinary Council meeting by electronic means. This meeting is deemed open to the public via an online live stream available through Council's website. An audio and video recording of the meeting will be published on Council's website after the meeting. The application used to live stream this meeting requires details of registration. However, these details are hidden from all other attendees at this meeting. Members of the public will not be recorded in this process, and Brimbank City Council does not record this information. Item 1, opening. Please stand for the acknowledgement of country. On behalf of Brimbank City Council, I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of this land, the Wurundjeri people, and pay our respects to elders, past, present and emerging. Item 2, council commitment. I ask councillors to remain standing for the council commitment. Others may be seated. As the council, we will act in the best interest of the Brimbank community and consider the immediate and long-term impacts of our decisions. We will make these decisions fairly and without bias. We will uphold all of our obligations under the laws of Victoria and Council's local laws, and we will act in accordance with our code of conduct. Councillors, please be seated. Okay. Item 3, apologies, leave of absence. I note that Councillor Tarkos and Councillor Hedditch have each submitted an apology for tonight's meeting. Item 4, disclosure of conflicts of interest. Are there any declarations of conflicts of interest? Councillor Farm, could you state which item, please?
I would like to declare the indirect conflict of interest at item 12.2. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other councillor? Thank you. Item 5, designation of items as confidential. There are items to be designated as confidential this evening. May I have a mover of a motion to designate items as confidential? Councillor Goodchair.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor.
Could you please state or move the motion?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I would like to move that the Council declares confidential in accordance with Section 77(2)(b) of the Local Government Act 1989 on the grounds provided in Section 31A, E, G2, 1L of the Local Government Act 2020, confidential attachment 1 to report 12.14, contract number 22886, supply of motor vehicles. Confidential attachment 1 to report 12.15, contract 20746, supply, installation and maintenance of fencing and bollards. Confidential attachment 1 to report 12.16, contract 22836, civil works annual supply panel. Confidential attachment 1 to report 12.17, contract number 202828, cleaning of council buildings. Confidential attachment 1 to report 12.18, contract number 182399, provision of footpath and curb maintenance and response works, extension of contract. Report 16.1, confidential matter, and report 16.2, also a confidential matter.
Thank you, Councillor Goodchair. Minute taker, please stop sharing your screen. Councillors, may I have a seconder? Councillor Trun. Does anyone else wish to speak to this item? I'll put the motion to a vote. Those in favour? Against? Carried. Item 6, confirmation of minutes of previous meetings. There are minutes of previous meeting to be confirmed this evening. May I have a mover of a motion to confirm the minutes? Councillor Borg.
I'll move the motion as per officer's recommendations.
Thank you. Minute taker, please stop sharing your screen. May I have a seconder? Councillor David. Does anyone else wish to speak to this? I'll put the motion forward. Those in favour? Against? Carried. Item 7, condolences. I would like us to observe a minute silence for Solomon Tufulangaki, who was 15 years old, who was fatally stabbed outside Brimbank Shopping Centre in Deer Park on Tuesday, the 16th of June. Councillors. Thank you, councillors. Item 8, congratulations. There are no items of congratulations this evening. Item 9, public question time. We've now reached the part of the meeting for public questions. Just for anyone unaware, public questions are able to be received in writing by noon on the day of the council meeting. As communicated through our website and to individual questioners, all questions received by council before 12 noon that comply with our meeting procedure will be read out and answered at this meeting and will also receive a written response. Mr. Sakurai, I understand we have received questions from the public this evening.
We have, Madam Mayor. The first question is from Ms. Hannah Robertson. At the Brimbank Ordinary Council meeting on 17 March 2020, Councillor Haddish tabled a notice of motion requesting Council write to the Commonwealth Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Brendan Murphy, and Victorian Chief Health Officer, Professor Brett Sutton, requesting advice on the health and educational impacts of aircraft noise, and further that their responses be made readily available to the Brimbank community. Have these requests been made? And if so, what has the response been from both the CMO and the CHO? Question 2 from Ms. Robertson is, if no responses have been forthcoming, what further action will Council take to ensure the community is provided with evidence-based advice on these impacts, such as requesting a copy of the health studies commissioned by Melbourne Airport, which we understand were nearing completion in 2018?
Thank you, Hannah, for your questions. For question 1, Council wrote to Brendan Murphy and Professor Brett Sutton on the 7th of April 2020 in line with the Council resolution at the Ordinary Council meeting on the 17th of March 2020. Council received a letter from the Victorian Department of Health and Human Services on the 25th of May 2020. However, no response has been received from the Commonwealth. The Department of Health and Human Services advised that the Department of Environment, Land, Water and Planning is responsible for coordinating the state government's response to the third runway development process, and that the Environment Protection Authority provides technical advice about noise, including impacts of noise exposure on public health and wellbeing and is engaged in this process. In relation to your second question, Council will continue to seek advice from the Victorian Government and Commonwealth in line with the Council resolution. Council will also seek copies of health studies from Melbourne Airport when they are available as part of the revised Melbourne Airport Master Plan and Major Development Plan for the third runway.
The next question is from Lindy Chapman. Will Brimbank Council assure residents they have no expectation of payments from Melbourne Airport, similar to those we are led to believe Hume receives?
Thank you for your question. Council does not have any detailed information on payments by Melbourne Airport to Hume Council. We can confirm that Melbourne Airport delivers a community grants program supporting education and employment initiatives to build economic participation, educational outcomes and social cohesion in Melbourne's northwest. Brimbank's Neighbourhood Houses unit received a $10,000 grant in 2019 and was also awarded another $10,000 grant in 2020.
The next two questions are from Bruce Cunningham. Does Brimbank Council have a master plan for the entire length of Stony Creek within Brimbank Council? Can this be shared, please? The second question is, what testing, BOD, E. coli, for example, is carried out in the Brimbank waterways to understand levels of safety for humans and pets, and how is this communicated back to the community?
Thank you, Bruce, for your questions. Stony Creek through the City of Brimbank is not a consistent waterway, with some sections in a natural state, but other sections either a concrete channel or underground. Stony Creek is managed by Melbourne Water. Council does not have an overall master plan for Stony Creek, but has been working closely with Melbourne Water and other stakeholders since 2013 to improve the functionality of this creek. Melbourne Water is the responsible authority for waterways within Brimbank and would undertake any necessary testing as per their statutory requirements. Thank you for your questions.
Next questions are from Penny Raybarts. With the major issue of litter in Brimbank Council, what is being done to address this? More regular emptying of public bins to avoid overflow? Community bins which are overflowing, do these receive warnings and fines? All litter ends up in our waterways eventually, and it would seem the best solution is to stop this from the source. Appreciate understanding Council's plan.
Thank you, Penny, for your questions. Council's Brimbank waste, recycling and litter strategy aims to reduce litter through a combination of education, enforcement and infrastructure. Council's environmental education officers continue to provide education and awareness programs that aim to reduce the issues of litter and illegal dumping through social media and in schools to lower the incidence of careless or deliberate littering. Council employs 2 litter enforcement officers who provide increased surveillance across the municipality through the installation of CCTV cameras, signs, and the issuing of fines. In addition, Council's cleansing team are proactively emptying litter bins 7 days a week. They also provide a reactive response service for litter and dumped rubbish requests across the municipality. Council also conducts regular street sweeping in high activity shopping centres and major council roads to remove litter. Community bins, such as charity bins, are monitored and maintained by a service provider through an agreement to ensure the area surrounding the bins are kept clean. In instances where this approach is not successful or where the providers and locations are the victims of illegal rubbish dumping, illegal rubbish dumping fines may be issued against offenders. In regard to litter in waterways, Council works with Melbourne Water as the responsible authority for maintaining waterways to reduce the impacts of litter and other gross contaminants through installation of infrastructure such as growth pollutant traps and rain gardens.
Madam Mayor, the second question is, do council have plans to purchase 64 Monash Street? This vacant block is right next to Pizzey Street Reserve and also has access to the waterways that flow out to Stony Creek at Matthews Hill. It would seem a perfect option to implement a filter system at this site before it flows into the creek. Please consider this seriously for the protection of our waterways.
I have been advised that the stormwater drain at this location is part of the significant high-capacity underground drainage network that is owned and operated by Melbourne Water as the responsible authority. Given the asset is owned and managed by Melbourne Water, Council does not have any plans to purchase the land at 64 Monash Street. Thank you for your question.
The next question from Jay Yuan is in regards to T. Gielnik's question at the May 19, 2020 Ordinary Council meeting, P10 2020. Am I also able to be sent the list of 41 projects?
I have requested that council officers provide you the list of 41 projects submitted to the federal government for funding as soon as possible. Thank you.
The next question from Alex Andrianopoulos. Does Brimbank Council have a representative on the Mayoral Aviation Council of Australia? Question 2 is, if the answer to question 1 is yes, are there minutes or other records of these meetings that the public have access to? If the answer to question 1 is no, why does BCC not have a representative on the Mayoral Aviation Council of Australia?
Oh, thank you, Alex, for your questions. Yes, at its ordinary meeting on the 17th of March 2020, Council appointed Councillor Virginia Tarkos as its representative on the Australian Mayoral Aviation Council for the period 18th of March 2020 until the 24th of March 2020. In relation to your second question, Council has not attended an Australian Mayoral Aviation Council meeting since being accepted as a member in September 2019. A meeting was scheduled in 2020, however, was cancelled due to the COVID-19 pandemic. To Council's knowledge, the Australian Mayoral Aviation Council minutes are not public documents. However, Council's representative will report future attendance at meetings within the governance report presented to Council each month. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, the final 2 questions are from Jenny Issa. Today, I ask our Mayor a question about last month's meeting, but first I'll convey my concerns. In this meeting, I witnessed some concerning commentary from Councillor Farm, Councillor Lancashire, and also the poor treatment of Councillor Heddich when he put up his hand to address his concerns regarding community-related matters. Councillor Farm asked a question regarding fees about her own family's business in St Albans. Councillor Lancashire celebrated planning application increases, which were most amended applications and not new applications. Councillor Heddich's community-related concerns seem to have been dismissed, and his treatment from other councillors looks to be ignored. Under your leadership, it seems that councillors are now acting in their own interests and not the wider community. When council was formed under the community first narrative almost 4 years ago, residents were under the assumption that all community was represented by this panel. Your councillors' actions and behaviour in last month's meeting suggested otherwise. Councillor Lancashire does not speak for me when he celebrated an increase in planning applications. His ward has minimal zones, unlike Sunshine and St Albans, where we are seeing aggressive development that undermines community health and well-being, and also council's urban forest strategy. Question 1 is, can you please advise the Brimbank community as to whether councillors are acting in their own interests or actually listening to the wider community? And question 2 is, additionally, why has Councillor Takos been absent from 2 of your last chaired meetings?
Thank you, Jenny, for your questions. I'll respond to your second question first. The reasons for Councillor Tarkos's absence from council meetings is a question best directed to her. It would be inappropriate for me to comment, as I am sure you would understand, but she has been listed as an apology. To your other question and concerns, I'm happy to have the opportunity to respond to questions of my leadership and whether or not this council is listening to the wider community, whether we are acting in our own interests and whether or not we are a community first council. I have seen very similar questions and accusations recently put in a damaging and anonymous article in The Age, which has unfortunately spurred on a barrage of emails and social media comments about me and council, and so it is indeed appropriate for me to respond and make a public statement. The values and resilience of people, organisations and communities has certainly been tested during this time of the COVID-19. This council has been tested for our ability to respond to the crisis and lead the recovery plan responsibly and appropriately. Our ability to support and help vulnerable people and businesses in need, and our ability to keep our humanity and compassion. We have all been thoroughly and rightfully scrutinised by the people and communities we serve as they turn to their leaders for understanding, support and guidance during this difficult time. I am extremely proud to confirm that we, like many people in our community, are working extremely hard to work through and overcome the challenges that we confront on a daily basis. We have applied ourselves in leading and doing this important work, knowing that there is still much more to do. And we know that this is the responsibility, and we know that this responsibility will not ease. Our actions and deeds and the standards we adopt will be closely watched more than ever as we work through the recovery. That's why it's so important for me personally and for the integrity and standing of council that we do not allow ourselves to be distracted from this path. I can tell you now that the actions of some, however hurtful, misdirected and destructive they might be, they will not distract me from my work. Rather, those acts of distraction and subversion only strengthen me to call them out, to keep going, and where appropriate, to push back. Why? Because there is simply no place for this type of behaviour and attitude. Why? Because council is committed to good governance and high standards of property. Wherever necessary, we will coordinate with integrity bodies to ensure that any inappropriate behaviour is investigated and prosecuted. Why? Because council requires all of its employees and councillors to behave in a professional manner and to treat each other with dignity and respect for their rights. Council expects its leaders, including councillors, to establish and maintain a safe and productive workplace. Because our CEO, executive management team, and our council staff who continue to put other people first under enormous expectation and pressure deserve so much better. Council has an obligation to provide a safe and healthy workplace for all employees under law. Why? Because the community we serve expect it from us and because it's the right thing to do. I personally know what it is like to be a victim and feel unsafe. I know what intimidation looks like. I know what fear and loathing looks like. and I know how it affects and hurts people. But I also know when to say enough is enough and when to move on. Our values, resilience and character will again be scrutinised over the coming months, whether it be in the workplace, in the media, with colleagues, or on the streets. I have no doubt about this. I say it again. This council wants what is best for our community. We will continue to work through all manner of challenges and we will not be distracted. I would like to thank those of you, including the majority of the councillors, those within the community and council staff who have reached out and sent me messages of understanding, guidance and support. Thank you. We'll move on to our next item. Item 10, petitions. There is one petition to be received this evening. Under the Governance Meeting Procedure Local Law Number 1, at an ordinary council meeting, petitions may only be received and referred to the Chief Executive Officer for consideration. Councillors, that means the petition itself will not be considered or discussed this evening. 10.1, removal of 2 large gum trees at the bottom of Cherub Court, Taylor's Lakes at number 10 and 12. May I have a mover of a motion to receive the petition in relation to removal of 2 large gum trees at the bottom of Cherub Court, Taylor's Lakes and number 10 and 12. Councillor Goodchair.
Yes, Madam Mayor, I'd like to move the motion that Council receives a petition from 24 petitioners requesting that Council removes 2 large gum trees at the bottom of Cherub Court, Taylor's Lakes at numbers 10 and 12, and also that Council refers the petition from 24 petitioners in relation to the removal of the gum trees at the bottom of Cherub Court, Taylor's Lakes at numbers 10 and 12 to the Chief Executive Officer for consideration and response.
Thank you, Councillor Goodchair. Minute taker, please stop sharing your screen. May I have a seconder? Councillor Lancashire. Does anyone want to speak to this petition? I will put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Item 11, minutes and reports of special committees. There are no minutes or reports of special committees this evening. Item 12, officer reports. There are 18 officer reports for consideration by Council tonight. Councillors, due to time constraints, I will not be granting extensions of speaking times for this meeting. And councillors are limited to 2 questions of clarification in relation to any motion. Item 12.1, Brimbank COVID-19 Response and Recovery Strategy, Monthly Progress Report, June 2020. I would like to invite our Director, Lindley Dumble, to present this report.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This report presents to Council the progress during May in implementing Council's coronavirus response and recovery strategy. The detailed progress comments are contained in attachment 1. The community impact analysis was first presented to Council in April and has been updated and is detailed in attachment 2. This community impact analysis summarises the ongoing impact of COVID-19 on individuals, families and communities in Brimbank through available data and information provided through engagement with the community via council services and networks. Thank you.
Thank you, Lindley. Councillors, are there any questions or points of clarification? Is there a mover for this report? Councillor Borg? Just
Madam
state
Mayor.
as it's printed, Councillor Borg. We don't need to read through all of it for these reports.
Okay, thank you, Madam Mayor. I would like to move the motion to as per officers' recommendations.
Thank you, Councillor Borg. Do I have a seconder for this? Councillor David? Would the mover like to speak to this report?
Yes,
Councillor
Madam
Borg?
Mayor. Thank you. This report was compiled on the 17th of June 2020. At that point, there were 72 cases, 2 active in Brimbank. Council assisted DHHS in utilizing the Keilor Community Hub car park as a drive-through testing site. It is reported that over 100 tests per day were completed at the Keilor site. As of the 31st of May, 51% of the strategy outcomes were completed, 44% of the strategy actions being implemented, and 5% of the strategy actions were identified as stage 2 recovery actions and had not yet commenced. This report also includes a financial analysis, and attached to this report is also the COVID-19 community impact analysis, which was provided at the special council meeting of the 16th of April, 2020 to inform the Brimbank Council COVID-19 response and recovery strategy. I commend this report to Council.
Thank you, Councillor Borg. Would the seconder like to speak, Councillor David? Can't hear.
No, Madam Mayor.
No. Are there any other speakers for this report? Councillor Goodichere?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just quickly, just to reiterate, Acting Director Linley's points, but also Councillor Borg's points. We've continued to be vigilant in the context of COVID-19. We've continued to deliver meals. We've continued with our vaccines. We've hosted many virtual meetings, also with our sporting clubs explaining the protocols and guidelines. We've supported the litter blitz, the cleaning litter blitz rather, in the high pedestrian areas. We've also distributed 10 creative Brimbank grants and all answered many calls from residents and on all matters. And I commend the customer service staff also for taking on board so many calls from different residents on different areas and informing our residents. In the meantime, of course, we do have our financial analysis, and we can see that our budget has been completely overhauled in some areas because of COVID-19. We will now slowly start to emerge from this pandemic, but of course we are assessing constantly, and over the weekend, of course, we saw some certainly new assessments concerning the COVID-19 that we all need to be aware of. But it's important that our residents stay safe throughout this, but also that our residents continue to seek information on the COVID-19 guidelines, and that Council continues to provide that information for our residents as well. Everyone, please stay safe.
Thank you, Councillor Goodichere. Any other councillors that would like to speak to this report? Right, I'll put it, the motion to a vote. Those in favour? Against? Carried. Councillors, before we continue to the next item, I'll provide an update on the COVID-19 as well. I would like to say a few brief words in the context of the Council's COVID-19 response and recovery strategy, and in light of recent local community transmission and active case issues. Brimbank's COVID-19 strategy June report reinforces the fact that Council continues to be heavily focused on supporting our local residents during the coronavirus pandemic. Across all 5 pillars of our strategy, Council has proudly continued to engage and support more local residents in response to the evolving health, wellbeing and economic challenges Brimbank is experiencing. However, as reported over the weekend, Brimbank has unfortunately continued to experience a high number of overall and active cases. The Australian Health Protection Principal Committee has stated this. It strongly discourages travel to and from areas of outbreak concern. This includes Brimbank. Comments made by the state government over the weekend indicate the state is considering implementing further social restriction measures across targeted LGAs, including Brimbank. Whilst Council has and continues to call on all members of our community to do their bit by getting tested and adhering to social distancing directions, Council is also mindful of the potential that any further localised restrictions may have on existing health and wellbeing and economic issues our community is experiencing. In this regard, I can report that yesterday I wrote to the Premier of Victoria calling on the state to consider increased engagement with Brimbank on these issues and to consider the establishment of a joint state government and Brimbank Council COVID-19 response and recovery task force, as well as a local health, wellbeing and economic package to support our community, including our impacted local businesses and workers through the pandemic. I thank councillors, the CEO, council officers and the local community for their ongoing support and engagement with our COVID-19 strategy, and I look forward to us continuing to respond and assist our residents in proactive ways as the pandemic unfolds. Thank you. Our next item, 12.2, is the draft annual budget 2020-21, including the draft long-term financial plan 2020 to 2030 and draft rating strategy 2020-21. I invite Director Shane Ma to present this report and the video. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Before we continue, I apologise. Councillor Dwina Farm, I believe you've got a, yes, conflict of interest. So we will put you in the holding room. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, apologies for that. Thank you, Shane.
No worries. Thank you, Madam Mayor. The draft annual budget for 2020-2021, including the draft long-term financial plan and draft rating strategy, are presented to Council tonight. If the documents are adopted by Council tonight, the draft budget, including the draft long-term financial plan and draft rating strategy, will be released for community consultation for a period of 4 weeks. And Council invite written submissions on these documents until the 22nd of July 2020. Council will consider the submissions and a final draft of the documents at the ordinary meeting of Council on the 23rd of August 2020. The annual budget is then required to be submitted to the Minister by the 31st of August this year. We will now play a video from the Mayor, which gives an overview of what is included in the draft 2021 annual budget. Thank you.
Hello everyone, I'm Councillor Georgina Papafodio and I'm the Mayor of Brimbank City Council. Along with my fellow councillors, I'm proud to introduce the Brimbank City Council Annual Draft Budget 2020-21. More than ever, Council is aware of how careful we need to be with community funds to make sure that every dollar is being invested back into our community in a way that keeps costs down but maximises value. Even with COVID-19 as a backdrop, Council's focus continues to be on all aspects of improving and enhancing our city, investing in ongoing capital works projects and upgrading facilities and open spaces to ensure the best possible quality of life for all residents. Our council is also highly focused on advocating for the needs of the Brimbank community to promote investment by federal and state governments and from the private sector, and on finding innovative new ways to deliver our services to the community. Council remains committed to ensuring that Brimbank is managed in a financially sustainable and responsible way which allows the greatest opportunities for development of infrastructure and services while understanding the financial pressures facing families within our community. Last year, we heard from many in our community about the budget priorities that are important to you. We've listened to the feedback and now we have put together a draft council budget for review and comment. I would like to take this opportunity to thank the many members of the community who have provided us with input in developing our 2020-21 annual budget. In unprecedented times, this draft budget plays a critical role in underpinning our recovery efforts and supporting our community through COVID-19. Our priority has always been the health and safety of our community, but recognise that this current pandemic has had a massive and immediate impact on so many local people and will likely continue to do so. With this in mind, Council has realigned its budget planning process to reflect the support measures contained in the Brimbank Coronavirus COVID-19 Response and Recovery Strategy. A key feature is a new financial hardship policy to assist ratepayers and businesses experiencing hardship related to COVID-19, including an expanded rates relief program, payment plans and commercial rent relief options. We want to support our community and businesses in a way that is realistic, sustainable and prudent. Let's first look at a few top-line figures in the budget. Rates are vital to ensuring that Council can achieve all the services it delivers to the community. Our primary source of income is rates and charges, which makes up 77% of our income. This chart shows how rates are spent per $100. Above all, the chart highlights Council's many commitments and initiatives and the diverse activities we deliver to support a healthy community that enjoys great quality of life. The draft budget includes a significant capital works allocation of $73.4 million to strengthen and enhance our city. When we talk about future capital works, we can't go past the highly anticipated St Albans Leisure Centre replacement project. The Australian First Health and Wellbeing Hub will be the biggest infrastructure project ever undertaken in the history of our municipality. Our unique hub will offer a state-of-the-art aquatic and leisure centre, as well as provide a range of vital health, wellbeing, social, educational and support services, programs, resources and initiatives that our community will need to help us during the COVID-19 recovery phase. It is a huge investment for Council, but we know that this facility and the services and partnerships that come along with it will be crucial for our community to recover from the shock of COVID-19. Now is the time to invest in our community's health, well-being, learning and recovery, and this hub is going to be an amazing local destination with something for everyone. We can't wait to deliver it for the community. I'd now like to take you through the overall capital works snapshot. What all this adds up to is better quality of life for the Brimbank community, better recreation facilities, better streetscapes, more efficient and enjoyable ways to get around the city, and all with an eye towards sustainability both in the near and long-term future. Let's now take a closer look at the future sports facility upgrades, where we have allocated $36.4 million of our project to support physical activity and encourage community participation in sport. Highlights of this allocation include new sports pavilions at Moore Park in Ardea, Bond Thomas Reserve in Deer Park, female sports facilities upgrade at Kilo Park Synthetics, reconstruction of the Errington Reserve Sports Ground, sports ground lighting upgrades at various locations, commencement of the detailed design for a new sports ground and facilities at Green Gully Reserve Northern Precinct in Keilor Downs. Our population is growing very fast and Council recognises our need to be planning for and delivering new sports facilities for our residents. This is part of our Council's goals of creating a livable and inclusive community where people have access to great, well-maintained public facilities. We are committed to improving the health and wellbeing of Brimbank residents by providing high-quality playgrounds, parks and gardens, and in the draft budget this includes. We aim to improve the quality of life for our residents through making the places and spaces where they spend a lot of their time more enjoyable and more user-friendly. Council has done a great deal in this area over the last few years, and our capital works budget for the coming year will allow for more improvements to this great city. And remember, these are just some of the projects Council is working on, and it's important to remember all the day-to-day services which reach every corner of our city, from waste management to elderly and disadvantaged support services. Finally, here are the next steps of our 2020-21 budget process. Community is at the heart of everything this Council does, and it's important that we continue to improve the long-term health and wellbeing of our community. We encourage you to submit feedback on the draft budget and let us know what you think. Brimbank really is a city with a great future. Thank you, and I look forward to all the great things we do in 2020-21. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Shane. Is there anything else that you'd like to add?
No, thank you, Madam Mayor.
All right, councillors, are there any questions or points of clarification for Shane? No? Do I have a mover for this motion? Councillor Goody, Chair.
I will move the motion as printed in the business papers, Madam Mayor, and also in point D, to have the council note that we appoint yourself, Madam Mayor, as chair, and all councillors as members to a hearing of submissions committee to hear any submitters requesting to be heard in support of their written submissions on the draft annual budget 2021, including the draft long-term financial plan 2020-30 and draft rating strategy 2020-21.
Thank you, Councillor Goody, Chair. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Trull. Would the mover like to speak to this motion? Councillor Goody, Chair.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just briefly, thank you very much for that wonderful presentation. I think it really made us envision how much work this council is actually still up to, considering that we're still in a pandemic mode. But a healthy $214 million in operating budget and $73.4 million in capital works. That is an enormous amount of money for this council to be spending. And I know that people probably expected things to be slowing down, but in capital works, this council does not slow down. You highlighted, and quite rightly so, Madam Mayor, the St Albans Health and Wellbeing Hub, absolutely amazing. I'm going to be the first one down that water slide. I'm telling you right now. I'll even buy new bathers if I have to, but I'm going down that water slide first.
I'll join you.
I've never been on a water slide before, but I've promised myself I'm going to do that because it is an absolutely amazing project. And I'm really looking forward to the starting of that project and to this council approving the money for that project, I might add. So we're in draft budget mode at the moment, but I'm sure that we'll have no submissions or objections to that. But of course, we still continue to invest in our sporting facilities. We continue to invest in our roads, our footpaths. We haven't forgotten our pedestrian links. We haven't forgotten our footpaths. We haven't forgotten our walking and cycling paths either, which many residents have spoken to us about. And the more linkages that we make in open space, the better we encourage our residents to get out there and get some exercise. And I know that after this COVID-19 is over, all of our residents will be raring to get out there and get some fresh air, because by the time that we can get out there and get some fresh air, the weather will be a little bit warmer as well, I'm hoping. But of course, we have recognised the need for some residents who are in hardship at the moment. And rightly so, Madam Mayor, you did pick up on the hardship policy. And for any of the residents who are experiencing hardship with the rates, please do contact council. We are very, very reasonable, and we do listen to our council, to our residents' needs. So thank you very much, Madam Mayor. I look forward to hearing the submissions, and I also look forward to hearing some of the more positive comments that will come out of this budget process. Thank you very much to all the officers and all of us as well, everyone who was involved in this process. A great job. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Goodiche. Well said. Councillor Trung, would you like to speak to this motion?
Oh, thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, it's the first. Thank you for the Shan and all the staff to get involved to draw the draft finance and the budget. And thank you for your presentation on the video to show it's more in the detail. And thank to Councillor Margaret for your comment. It's really good. And I think it has a budget is to help the member in the community. It $80 from the council, how we can spend and work for the community. I think it's due to the COVID-19, it's a lot of finance problem. The councillor Margaret mentioned, it council always support for every member in our community have the hardship or the difficult of the finance, or even if we also support and encourage, and it's give more information even for the business people too. And once again, thank you very much for all the staff and everyone to get involved in this project. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Trung. Definitely everyone's doing their best here at council. Do I have any other councillors that would like to speak? Councillor Allen?
There we go. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
The kids are very excited. All kids are so excited about this new swimming centre. I even remember when I was younger, and you know, the school took us all the way out to Melton to experience a brand new Melton Wavefall at the time. But it's exciting. We've got an amazing facility of our own, just massive. One of the items that was in there, and I also wanted to comment on, one of the items I put in, I'm really happy that it made it in, was the Alfreda Street Master Plan. So for those that aren't familiar, Hampshire Road Sunshine have their master plan, and that's been instrumental in guiding development in the area. And I'm very happy that now Alfreda Street St Albans will have their own. That will be a key piece that will lead to a local community, enhancing opportunities for gathering, shopping, socialising, and funding for hopefully decades to come. So very exciting about that. It's huge.
Thank you, Councillor Allen. Councillor Borg?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This year's annual budget is a budget with a difference. As the Mayor mentioned, it has been put together as we face and adapt to the challenges of the COVID-19 pandemic. The health, social, and economic impacts on the local community are highly concerning, considering that pre-COVID-19, the socio-economic index for Brimbank indicated that this is a disadvantaged community. What is also different in this budget is in relation to council's declaration of climate emergency of the subsequent plan, which is coming to council for endorsement at this meeting. In this budget, council has also taken this responsibility into account. Speaking of the budget with a difference, this budget also includes the construction, as already mentioned, of the new St. Albans Leisure Centre replacement project. In the recent Brimbank City Council McClellan review submission 2020, it was interesting to note that this project has been referred to as the COVID-19 recovery hub for the West. As such, among other things, it has great potential in the recovery process, as well as future funding. Besides the health and well-being benefits, it is also important to mention the economic benefits that it will have. There is a lot of evidence in the literature to support this claim. A healthy society is a productive society. What stays consistent in the preparation of this budget draft is Council's implementation of the principles of sound financial management, including prudently managing financial risks faced by Council.
Thank you, Councillor Borg. Any other councillors? Councillor David. We can't hear you, Councillor David. Press, that's it.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Firstly, I'd like to say thank you to our Director, Shane Marr, and his team. Extremely put together a report that is warranted well in this time with the COVID-19. To you, Madam Mayor, with that presentation and that extremely good video that we've just seen, it's a fantastic presentation, not just for us, but the whole community, the whole Brimbank community. I think we've done well as a team. Extremely good draft budget, even with the COVID-19 before us, and I believe the hard times ahead of us. Well done, everyone, and we're looking forward to works getting done. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor David. Any other speakers? Councillor Lancashire.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I too would like to support the words from the councillors that have been spoken so far. Quite clearly, this is an excellent budget to help us move out of COVID-19 and get development going in this municipality. In terms of things like the exciting proposals for the St. Albans Leisure Centre, I certainly recall my kids swimming there 20 years ago, and it was a bit tired then. To see what's being proposed now, I think is an amazing facility to get our kids excited about doing exercise, and then moving on to all the parks that we're facilitating and redeveloping in terms of sporting facilities. These are the sort of things that will help get our kids out of COVID and back into healthy activity going forward into the future. So well done on the video, Madam Mayor. Well done to the councillors, and particularly well done to the staff that have worked tirelessly in a very difficult environment to pull this budget together. So thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Any other speakers? Okay, I'll put the motion to a vote. Those in favour? Against? Carried. Congratulations to all those staff involved in putting this together. Thank you for your hard work. We've got a councillor that's returned. Could I ask that councillor to state her name, please?
Councillor Yuen An Pham.
Thank you. Councillors, please show your audio visual card.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. All right. Item 12.3, planning activity update and delegate decisions, May 2020. I invite Director Calvin Walsh to present this report. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councillors, this is a monthly report to Council regarding the status of planning permit applications and trends in planning approvals in Brimbank, and also decisions made under delegation during May 2020 regarding various planning permit applications and matters. Council are asked to note the current planning application activity as at attachment 1 to this report.
Okay. Councillors, are there any questions or points of clarification? Do I have a mover for this report? Councillor Lancashire.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move the officer's recommendation in the report.
As per the papers?
As per the papers.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Aziz. Would the mover like to speak to this report?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just very briefly to mention that in the report it refers to the cost of development of new applications is 89 million. This is a little bit down on the previous year. However, given the circumstances, it is still a very substantial amount of work going on in this municipality and a very important driver of new jobs, the construction industry. It employs a lot of Brimbank residents in this industry. So again, I also appreciate the amount of work that goes in by our planners in processing this amount of work and achieving the high quality planning outcomes that we see in this municipality. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Could I please ask the minute taker to take the share screen down? Okay. Would the seconder like to speak? Councillor Aziz? No? Do I have any other speakers? I'll put the motion to a vote. Those in favour? Against? Carried. Okay, 12.4, Brimbank Planning Scheme Amendment C214, Draft Development Contributions Plan 2019 and Development Contributions Overlay Schedule 3. I ask our Director Calvin Walsh to present this. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This report is for Council to consider endorsing the draft Brimbank Development Contribution Plan 2019 for consultation, to consider seeking authorisation from the Minister for Planning to prepare and exhibit the amendment to the planning scheme, amendment number C214, and to note that the draft Brimbank Public Open Space Contributions Policy would be prepared and presented to Council for consideration at a future meeting. The officer recommendations to Council is that you endorse the draft development contribution plan provided at attachment 1 for the purposes of public consultation, that you note that the open space contribution policy will be prepared and presented to you at a later date, and that Council seeks authorisation from the Minister for Planning to prepare and exhibit the amendment. And that you also delegate to me endorsement of any changes required to make that are required as part of the conditional authorisation for Amendment C214. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Calvin. Councillor, could I please ask the minute taker to please stop sharing the screen? Thank you. Councillors, are there any questions or points of clarification? No. Do I have a mover for this report? Councillor Lancashire? Do I have Councillor Lancashire?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move the officer's recommendation as per the notice paper.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder for this report? I can't see. Minute taker, could you please stop sharing the screen? Thank you. Do I have a seconder for this report? Councillor David. Thank you. Councillor Lancashire, would you like to speak to this report?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, I would. Amendment C214 proposes to introduce the Development Contributions Plan 2019 DCP 219 and Development Contribution Overlay Schedule 3 into the Brimbank Planning Scheme. Two DCPs are already part of the Brimbank Planning Scheme, including the Sunshine Town Centre DCP, Development Contribution Plans Overlay Schedule 1, gazetted in 2015, and Brimbank DCP 2016 Development Contributions Plan Schedule 2, gazetted in January 2018. Since preparation and adoption, these DCPs' further strategic work has been completed for the assessment and delivery of community and sports infrastructure to meet the needs of the existing and current projected future populations, including Community Services and Infrastructure Plan 2018 to 2038, Sports Facility Development Plan updated 2018. Amendment C214 proposes a collection of approximately $7.2 million from new development towards 68 community infrastructure projects. The total cost of these projects is estimated at $77.4 million, leaving a funding gap of $70.2 million. Council will be required to deliver all these projects by 2041, regardless of the amount of DCP it collects. Amendment C214 will only apply to new residential development, as residents are deemed to be the primary users of the types of projects included, which is community and sports infrastructure. It is also proposed that Council requests that the Minister for Planning approve an exemption from notifying every owner and occupier of the amendment in the municipality. This is due to the impracticality of undertaking such extensive consultation. It is proposed that Council would provide direct notification to owners of large sites identified for change, owners whose property has had a planning permit or building permit issued for new residential or mixed-use development in the last 2 years, industry professions who frequently lodge permit applications with Council, other stakeholders including Housing Industry Association and Property Council of Victoria, as well as prescribed ministers and referral authorities. This is consistent with the approach Council took for Brimbank DCP 2018. I would like to thank the staff for an enormous amount of work in preparing this DCP, this Development Contributions Plan, and I recommend it to Council. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lancashire, for a thorough report. Councillor David, would you like to speak to this?
No, Madam Mayor, I think Councillor Lancashire put it together as he should.
He did, he sure did. Any other councillors that would like to speak to this item? All right, I'll put the motion to a vote. Those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. We're up to 12.5. Return of supplementary valuations 2019-20. Could I please ask our Director, Shane Maher, to present this report? Thank you, Shane.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This report is presented to Council to consider the supplementary valuations prepared by the Valuer General the period 1st of July 2019 through to the 31st of May 2020. Thank you.
Okay. Could I please ask the minute taker to stop sharing the screen? Thank you. Councillors, are there any questions or points of clarification? Councillor Truong.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My question to San is I have, how can we get the value of the property, because some of the members in the community take a little bit concern. It's like same the street, same the the square of the 10 local plan, but the value of the property is really different. Somewhere it's very high and the council rate is different. So people a little bit concerned how we make the value on the property, especially for the private.
Yep. Thank you, Councillor Trung. If a property is subject to a supplementary valuation, they will receive a notice advising of the new valuation, and including in that will be information about contacting either council, and we can put them in touch with the valuers to have a discussion around how the value is derived. And if they're still unhappy with it, there is a process where they can object back through the Valuer General's office in relation to that valuation.
Councillors, any other questions? Okay, thank you, Shane. Do I have a mover for this report? Councillor Goodichere.
I'll move the motion as per business papers, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Minute taker, could you please stop sharing the screen? Do I have a seconder for this item? Councillor Aziz. Would the mover like to speak to this item?
No, thank you, Madam Mayor.
Would the seconder like to speak to this item?
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Are there any councillors that would like to speak to this item? No? All right, I'll put the motion to a vote. Those in favour? Against? Carried. Okay, item 12.6, the draft neighbourhood character study progress report. Could I please ask Director Calvin Walsh to come back and present this report? Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The purpose of this report is to provide a progress update on the draft Brimbank Neighbourhood Character Study 2019, including an overview of the community consultation process held regarding the draft study in mid-2019, to also provide an update on key planning changes impacting the project timeline and the finalisation of the draft study, and for Council to note the next steps, including further work now required as a result of the State Government's Planning Practice Notes 90 and 91. The Officer recommendation is that Council notes the progress contained within the report, also notes the additional strategic work is required to finalise the draft neighbourhood character study as a result of the Planning Practice Notes 90 and 91, including the development of a municipal housing framework and the preparation of a revised Brimbank housing study, and that we also write to submitters thanking them for their submissions to the draft Brimbank Neighbourhood Character Study and provide them a project update, including Council's resolution. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Minute taker, could you please stop sharing the screen? Thank you. Okay. Councillors, any questions or points of clarification? None? Okay, do I have a mover for this? Councillor Lancashire.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move the officer's recommendation in the notice paper.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Minute taker, could you please? I can't. Thank you. Councillor Goodichere. Could I, Councillor Lancashire, would you like to speak to this motion?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to elaborate on the matters raised about this report by the Director of City Development. At the Council ordinary meeting on the 25th of June 2019, Council endorsed the draft neighbourhood character study for the purpose of consultation. After that, we received 70 submissions. 53 were pro forma submissions relating to residential land south of Taylors Road, generally between Arthur Street and Elfrida Streets and Albans, and 16 individual submissions. After consultation was completed, the Department of Environment, Land, Water and Planning advised that a new Planning Practice Note, PPN, would be released prior to the end of 2019 and cautioned council officers in proceeding with finalisation of the draft strategy until after it was released. In December 2019, 2 Planning Practice Notes were released, which set out the state government's current expectations for how council should use planning tools to plan for housing and change in neighbourhood character. The release of these practice notes means that the draft strategy now cannot be finalised in its current form, and that a substantial amount of further strategic work is now required. This includes development of a comprehensive housing framework for the municipality that is compliant with the new planning practice notes, which also necessitates a review of the Brimbank housing strategy, Home and Housed. A review of the draft strategy is also required that is informed by the housing framework and housing strategy. It is a little bit disappointing after all the work that our staff have put in that we've had, of course, these practice notes that have required us to go back and do this, and this will take quite some time to achieve. But I do believe at the end of the day, the hard work of our officers will pay off, and we will end up with helping to preserve the character of Brimbank into the future with this amendment. So well done to the staff, and it's just one of those things we have to live with from the department and their practice notes. So thank you, Madam Mayor, but otherwise I recommend that we endorse the recommendation as put forward by the staff. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lancashire. Councillor Goodachie, would you like to speak?
Just briefly, Madam Mayor, just to reiterate Councillor Lancashire's comments, but just to have the council note that this was an action coming out of our council plan, and it was identified as a very, very important piece of work for various reasons, especially the need to have a strategic basis to recognise neighbourhood character and to be able to adequately assess planning applications according to neighbourhood character. And as Councillor Lancashire said, it's quite a shame that we then had to go back and revisit some of that because of the new practice notes. But we now have a draft that's more consistent with the guidelines, and obviously it has highlighted the fact that we do need to do a little bit more work in that area. But thank you to Calvin and the team for all, it's an enormous piece of work that they've done there now. And at the end, as Councillor Lancashire said, we will have a strategy and policy which will address our neighbourhood character. Extremely important for some areas of Brimbank. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Goodachie. Do I have any other speakers? Okay, I'll put the motion to a vote. Those in favour? Councillor Borg? Against? Carried. Okay. Item 12.7, Governance Report for June 2020. I would like to ask our Director, Dan Hogan, to present this report. Thank you, Dan.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The monthly governance report is a standing item within the ordinary council meeting agenda. It is a summary of recent governance, recent governance activity in accordance with best practice and good governance principles. Written in compliance with provisions applying respectively in the Local Government Act 1989 and the Local Government Act of 2020, the report variously informs Council of delegated decisions, outcomes of previous Council resolutions, or seeks relevant decisions for action. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Minute taker, please stop sharing the screen. Thank you. Councillors, any questions or points of clarification? No? Do I have a mover for this? Councillor Goodachie.
I'll move the motion as per business papers. Thank you.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder for this? Minute taker, could you please? Thank you. Do I have a seconder, Councillor Farn? Would the mover like to speak to this report?
Just briefly, Madam Mayor, it just falls under my portfolio, and of course I'm very happy to commend the report to Council. Lots of activity going on. A lot of the activity has been virtual activity, but still lots of activity nonetheless. And four very important points in this report: the power purchase agreement, the planning scheme amendment C200 Part 2, the procurement policy, and also the submission to state government on skills for a growing economy review, also known as the McCullough Review. So lots of work being undertaken to better inform our strategies and policies into the future. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Farm, would you like to speak to this report? Do I have any other speakers? All right, I'll put the motion to a vote. Those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. Item 12.8, Homelessness Research Project. I ask our Acting Director, Lynley Dumble, to present this report. Thank you, Lynley.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This report presents for Council consideration the key findings and recommendations of the Homelessness Research Project final report. The research report was commissioned by Council to build a local evidence base and to clarify Council's role in responding to homelessness in Brimbank. The urgency of this work has increased due to the COVID-19 crisis, and opportunities now exist to align its implementation to Council's coronavirus response and recovery strategy. There are proposed short and medium actions for Brimbank Council to assist in addressing this significant issue, and they are detailed in the attached implementation for Council's implementation plan for Council's consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, Lynley. Could I ask the minute taker to stop sharing the screen? Thank you. Councillors, are there any questions or points of clarification? None. Thank you. All right, do I have a mover for this report? Councillor Borg, thank you.
I move the motion as per business papers, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Borg. Minute taker, could you please stop sharing the screen? Thank you. Do I have a seconder for this? Councillor Trull? Would the mover like to speak to this report?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. According to the definition used by the Australian Bureau of Statistics, a person is counted as homeless when they don't have suitable alternatives and their current living arrangement is in a dwelling that is inadequate or has no tenure, or if their initial tenure is short and not extendable, or does not allow them to have control of and access to space for social relations. This report was initiated by Brimbank City Council, recognizing that homelessness is a significant and growing concern within our municipality. Being on the ground to community needs, Council sees the direct impact of homelessness on individuals and families. Sadly, Brimbank has the highest incidence of homelessness and marginal housing in Melbourne's West, and the largest number of people accessing specialist homelessness services in Victoria. There is no definite data on current rough sleepers in Brimbank. We should not be complacent, as homelessness can happen to anyone, sometimes when least expected. Research shows that people without an existing safety net of financial resources or personal family support are much more likely to be impacted and find it more difficult to rebuild their lives. Brimbank has rates of housing stress, including rental stress, and a significant decrease since 2008 in affordable private rental properties. There has been minimal growth in the provision of public or community housing over the past 5 years, along with long waiting lists of households already assessed as eligible. The homelessness service system has limited capacity to meet growing demand, and the shortage in available emergency or crisis supported accommodation across the region. The COVID pandemic has put further stress on people at risk or experiencing homelessness. The key recommendations arising from this report present short-term initiatives and medium long-term initiatives to allow Council to respond to the most immediate needs first, and then the more difficult and deep-rooted issues over the longer term. I commend this report to Council.
Well said, Victoria. Thank you. Councillor Truong, would you like to speak to this report?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, I just would like to add with Councillor Bo. I think we have a several groups at risk for homeless in Brimbank, including the women and children experiencing from family violence. I am the social support worker for family violence. I see a lot of cases, especially during to the COVID-19. A lot of them have to move out of the house and feel hardship with the economic, and also to find somewhere to live. Also, the older single women, the young people out of the home care. And in Brimbank, we have a large ethnic community, and some of the they have very large members, their family, and so it's sometimes they have the family up to 8 to 10 children, and usually the house they rent is around 3 or 4 bedrooms. So some of the children, they left their home and live on the street. In Brimbank, we know have many of housing commission, and I think we know have a lot of support of funding from the state government or federal government to help us to go through that, because everyone to know it Brimbank is high risk of homeless people in the western suburb, and we need to help and support them. But it, due to the rising in housing costs and very limit of the government investment in this area, and also we know have many housing commission. I think we need to find out which way we can help the member in our community, especially people in the homeless during this COVID-19 now. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Truong. Do I have any other speakers for this report? Okay, I'll put the motion to a vote. All those in favour? Against? Carried. 12.9, final draft climate emergency plan. May I ask our Director, Calvin Walsh, to present this report? Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The purpose of this report is for Council to consider the final draft Brimbank Climate Emergency Plan 2020 to 2025, which is included at Attachment 1 in the agenda papers. At the 10th of January 2019 Ordinary Council meeting, the draft plan was presented to Council and you endorsed it for public consultation. The consultation period was undertaken from that Council meeting right through until February of this year, the 26th of February this year. 32 community members or community groups commented on the draft plan through formal submissions. A summary of these submissions is provided at Attachment 2. Tonight, Council is asked to consider the submissions received on the draft plan and adopt the final draft Brimbank Climate Emergency Plan at Attachment 1 to this report. If Council does do that, we would write to submitters thanking them for their submissions onto the draft plan and advising them of Council's decision. We would also write to the Victorian Minister for Energy, Environment and Climate Change to submit the Brimbank Climate Emergency Plan as Council's pledge under the Victorian Climate Change Act 2017. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Calvin. Okay, minute taker, please stop sharing the screen. Thank you. Councillors, are there any questions or points of clarification? No. Do I have a mover for this report? Councillor Troom.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move in the paperwork. Thank you.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder for this report? Minute taker, please stop sharing the screen. Do I have a seconder for this report? Councillor Allen. Councillor Troom, would you like to speak to this report?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As the sustainable Brimbank portfolio, I am very pleased to speak to the final climate emergency plan report. The report is very important and significant piece of work. Last year, Council received a community petition to declare a climate emergency. The petition requests Council undertake a number of actions to address this concern. In response to a resolution of Council at 25th of June 2019 ordinary meeting of Council, officers have prepared a comprehensive climate emergency plan including the position of statement. Across Council, we can incorporate large and small change in our business to reach the better environmental outcome. To engage with young people in our community, especially through our dynamic young citizen program. We know the environment and the climate change is of very real concern to young people. Brimbank's young people, our leader of tomorrow, want urgent action to respond to this emergency. The climate emergency declaration is a part of fast-growing global movement, and the final climate emergency plan recognizes that the community is looking for the leadership on this issue. I am proud that Brimbank is leading the way in preparing the plan to respond to the emergency. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Troom. Councillor Allen, would you like to speak to this report? We can't hear you.
There we go. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just to say that I'm very happy with this piece that's come forward, and it's great, not to be understated, that the statement commits Council, one of the key points here, lead the Brimbank community to zero net emissions. That's no small feat. That's an incredible thing to commit to.
Thank you, Councillor Allen. Do I have any other speakers? Councillor Borg.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's great to see the final draft of this plan coming to Council for endorsement. This plan has generated a lot of interest among the community. Indeed, 32 community members or community groups commented on the draft plan. The comments were overwhelmingly supportive of Council taking an active leadership role by declaring a climate emergency, and there was great general praise for the plan. I would like to thank the members of the community for their valuable contribution, and Mr. Walsh and the staff for developing such a plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Borg. Any other councillors that would like to speak? Okay, I'll put the motion to a vote. Those in favour? Against? Carried. An important plan for our future generations. Thank you. Next item, 12.10, Council Plan Progress Report. Year 3, third quarter. Lindley, could you please present this report?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The purpose of this report is for Council to note the progress made towards implementation of the Council Plan for the third quarter 2019-2020. As of the 31st of March 2020, the status of the 114 actions in the Council Plan Annual Action Plan was 7 Council Action Plans were completed and 107 Council Plan actions are being implemented. Thank you.
Thank you, Lindley. Could the minute taker please stop sharing the screen? Thank you. Councillors, are there any questions or points of clarification? Now, do I have a mover for this report? Councillor Goody, Chair.
I'll move the recommendation, Madam Mayor, as printed in the business papers.
Thank you, Councillor Goody, Chair. Do I have a seconder for this? Minute taker, could you please stop sharing the screen? Sorry, do I have a seconder? Councillor Trull. Councillor Goody, Chair, would you like to speak to this report?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Just briefly, excuse me. As stated in the report, we are on track as identified by the graph to deliver 91% of all projects. 11 actions are at risk of being carried over due to next year, but this is also because of COVID-19. But of particular note, Madam Mayor, is the implementation of a range of arts programs and virtual exhibitions across 5 gallery spaces, which is extremely important for our artists out there in the community. I think they were all afraid that they didn't have anywhere to actually exhibit their art, but we have found a very innovative way of doing it. We also have the completion of sports facility improvement upgrades, which are continuing. There is the rollout of the household compost bin subsidies, which were extremely, extremely popular. And we also have the commencement of the 2020 street tree planting program and the implementation of a range of business development activities. All in all, an excellent result considering the current circumstances. Thank you, Madam Mayor. And thank you to everyone involved in all of this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Goody, Chair. Councillor Trull, would you like to speak to this report?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, this report is to show us a lot of achievement in this quarter. It includes like development of a community resource about the community garden will completely follow on-farm study in community garden. Commencement of the respectful broader men group, which provide the support for men from the diverse background who are looking for the employment. Continue the implementation of the array of art program and exhibition across 5 gallery space, Modern Theatre and St. Albans Community Center. And endowment of the St. Albans Health and Wellbeing Hub Design Development Report. And commence of the Better Impact Volunteer Management Portal. And Councillor Margaret mentioned, the composting is very successful in this area, and I think it's a lot of precedent. It get involved, and they will get $50 back from when they get the composting. And I think it continue engage with the federal and state governments in increase the business and investment opportunity for local transform Brimbank to 2020 agenda. I think that is really successful. Thank you for all the staff and the director who get involved and encourage the member in the community to get involved in this quarter. It's really successful. Thank you.
All right. Any other councillors that would like to speak to this report? No. Okay. I'll put it to a motion. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. Report item 12.11, Draft Library Strategy 2020 to 2025. Lindley, you're a busy lady tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The purpose of this report, councillors, is for council to consider endorsing the Draft Library Strategy 2020 to 2025 at attachment 1 for community consultation. The The library strategy expires this year and a draft library strategy 2020 to 2025 has been developed. It is proposed the draft strategy will be made available for a minimum 4-week period of community consultation. The draft strategy builds on the achievements of the existing library strategy, and the purpose is to provide a framework for the planning and development of library services, programs, collections, community engagement, and online services to meet our changing community needs. Thank you.
Thank you, Lindley. Minute taker, could you please stop sharing the screen? Thank you. Councillors, are there any questions or points of clarification for Lindley? None. Do I have a mover for this report? Councillor Borg.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll move the motion as per business papers.
Thank you, Councillor Borg. Minute taker, do you mind not? Thank you. Do I have a seconder for this report? Councillor Goodichet. Councillor Borg, would you like to speak to this report?
Yes, Madam Mayor. As portfolio champion for the People portfolio, which includes lifelong learning, I am very proud of the critical work being undertaken by our libraries. Brimbank has 5 branch libraries, an online library, a home library service, 240,000 collection items held, 1.3 million loans annually, and over 80,000 members. During the recent libraries buildings closure due to the COVID-19 pandemic, our libraries quickly responded with innovative solutions to support the community with a home delivery service, resulting in over 1,000 deliveries and developing virtual library programs, including Baby Bounce, Storytime, Resume Help, Reading Buddies, Code Club, Lego Club, Book Club, Practice Your English, and Author Talks. During the COVID-19 restrictions, over 2,565 years plus library members were contacted by phone, and over 500 new members joined. Congratulations to all involved in providing exceptional and innovative services during this period, demonstrating a council goal of being innovative and responsive, putting our community first. The strategic framework for library collections underpins the library strategy 2020-2025. The emerging priorities for the library strategies are places and belonging, learning, community, lifelong readers, and being future focused. The strategy responds to the community's needs and interests, and most importantly for me, fosters the love of lifelong reading and learning. I commend this report to Council.
Thank you, Councillor Borg. Councillor Goodichet, thank you. Would you like to speak?
Yes, Madam Mayor, just briefly, just to reiterate Councillor Borg's report, a very comprehensive report indeed. But I just wanted to mention, Madam Mayor, little did we know when we started consulting on our strategy last year, knowing that our strategy, the library strategy, was going to expire this year. Little did we know how much the library strategy would have to actually adapt to circumstances with the COVID-19 pandemic. And I have to say that all of our residents, I haven't met one or spoken to one that has not been satisfied with our library services. So I know they're missing the attendance at the library, but they're certainly not missing our library services. Many, many people have signed up for the home library service, libraries online. We're doing story times. We're doing everything that there is there from our libraries to keep in touch with our community and keep their learning skills engaged, and also for our children to be engaged as well. So I do commend this strategy, and I'm sure that we'll have mostly positive reports from all of our submissions on this wonderful library strategy. Thank you to everyone involved in the wellbeing area for this wonderful report. Thank you.
Thank you. Do I have any other speakers for this report? Okay, councillors, I'll put it to a vote. All those in favour? Against? Carried. I'd also like to commend all the wonderful work the library staff have done during these COVID restrictions, and also thank the councillors that were involved in the activities. Some of them haven't been made public yet, but it was great doing them and working with the wonderful staff that we have here at council. Thank you. The next report, 12.12, Final Draft Children's Strategy 2020 to 2024. Lily, could you please present this report?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The purpose of this report is to provide Council with an overview of the submissions received on the draft Brimbank Children's Strategy 2020 to 2024, and for Council to consider the adoption of the final draft strategy. The draft strategy aims to guide Council's commitment to improving the outcomes for families and children, and recognises the value of partnerships between Council, the community and service providers. It intends to reflect the experiences, ideas and aspirations of children, families and community organisations in Brimbank. The focus is on children from birth to 9 years, their parents, carers and service providers. Thank you.
Thank you, Lindley. Minute taker, do you mind? Thank you. Councillors, are there any questions or points of clarification for Lindley? Okay, thank you, Lindley. Do I have a mover for this report? Councillor Borg?
Yes, I'll move the motion as per business papers.
Thank you, Councillor Borg. Minute taker, thank you. Do I have a seconder for this report? Councillor Farn? Would the mover like to speak to this report? Councillor Borg?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. The draft Final Children's Strategy 2020-2024 aims to strengthen support for all families during the formative years of their children's lives. This enhances parents' capacity to be their child's first and most influential educator. The strategy also reinforces Council's ongoing commitment to providing a child-centered service and values the important role families play in a child's development. The strategy is underpinned by the United Nations Conventions on the Rights of the Child and the Victorian Child-Friendly Cities and Community Charter. The strategy focuses on children up to the age of 9 years and their parents, carers, and service providers in Brimbank. A comprehensive consultation process was undertaken with children and their families, including over 22 partner groups. The process guaranteed the voices of children were prominent and are one of the key drivers of the strategy. The strategy aims to reflect the experiences, ideas, and aspirations of children, families, and community organizations in Brimbank. The strategy provides a framework to improve the outcomes for families and children in Brimbank. I commend this report to Council.
Thank you, Councillor Borg. Councillor Farn, would you like to speak to this report? Thank you.
Thank you. It's so glad to say that Brimbank played an important role in supporting children and family in Brimbank with all sort of program in also in many languages as well. As Brimbank is such a diverse municipality, and I hope to see more of those programs that provided in the future for especially for community that New Drive community, also existing community that have been here for quite a long time. Last month, I also want to comment on the partnership between the support of Brimbank into the new formed organization, which is the Vietnamese families of children with special needs. And they actually started to have their own website and giving all sort of support to a family who have children with special needs and under our support as well. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Pham. Are there any other councillors that would like to speak to this report? Councillor Truong.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think children is really important for our community, and we all want to ensure Brimbank is the right place for our children to grow up. The early year of the child life is important for their development into healthy and engaged adults. We know the following essential to their health is well-being, to access to health and support service, quality of education, nutrition food, well-designed built and natural environment, supportive and caring relationship. I think it's very right to the support for the play group, and also I know council also have the support in home for the study, especially for the children at home now for their education about the English or the other language. So thank you very much for all the staff and the director to involve and encourage them to support, especially for the family, have the children, and they really need the support. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Truong. Any other speakers? Okay, thank you. We'll put the motion to a vote. Those in favour? Against? Carried. Okay, our next item is 12.13, Final Draft Youth Strategy 2020 to 2024. Lindley, your final report tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The purpose of this report is for Council to note the submissions received on the draft Brimbank Youth Strategy 2020 to 2024 and consider adopting the final strategy. The draft strategy will guide the development and coordination of services and support for young people aged 10 to 25 years. It recognises the rapidly changing world young people aged 10 to 25 are experiencing, while also considering the pivotal role they can play in shaping this change and our community. The draft strategy also reflects the experience, knowledge, ideas and aspirations of young people and the key stakeholders supporting them. Thank you.
Thank you, Lindley. Minute taker, could you please stop sharing? Thank you. Okay, councillors, are there any questions or points of clarification for Lindley? None. Thank you, Lindley.
Thank you.
Do I have a mover for this report? Councillor Borg, you've been a busy lady tonight. Thank you.
I certainly have. Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would like to move the motion as per business papers.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder for this report? Councillor Allen? Thank you. Councillor Borg, would you like to speak to this report?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. As champion of the Brimbank People portfolio, I am pleased to speak about the final draft Youth Strategy 2020-2024. The vision for this strategy reminds us that young people need to have access to ongoing opportunities for empowerment and active collaboration to help them thrive in their communities. The age range for this strategy is 10 to 25 years. However, there is a focus on young people aged 10 to 12 middle years, because there is little support provided for this age range, despite this period being one of significant transition from primary to secondary school, along with rapid physical and mental development. To develop this strategy, over 300 young people participated in consultation, and over 70 participants representing services ranging from state and federal government, specialist providers of youth services, and other local government youth services. We are living in challenging times, and in a rapidly changing world, young people are facing changes and opportunities very different to generations before them. The strategy recognizing young people can and must play a key role in shaping their communities. The strategy supports council officers in developing a practice that will be able to respond to the needs of Brimbank's young people. I commend this report to Council.
Thank you, Councillor Borg. Councillor Allen, would you like to speak to this report?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to say I'm very proud of the work everybody has put in to develop this strategy. By empowering our youth, we can ensure that Brimbank remains a viable place for young people to live, to work, and grow in the future. It's not without its challenges, but hopefully, because of the consultation we've had with young people and the consultation we've had with the youth sector, we can begin to break down these barriers.
Councillors, are there any other speakers for this item? Councillor Trung?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm very supportive of strategy. It highlights what is positive change are going to be made for the young people in Brimbank, and how council is supportive of young people being involved in the consultation, input, and communication discussion with councillor. Means that young people can be involved in the local government in the future. Support for the young people from low-income background. Concession, incentive for council service to support petition. Promotion of service at young for the hotspot area that includes like the transport hub, so young people feel safe and connection. I see it's a lot of proof of the young people get involved in Brimbank, and see they are very active. So we should support them ongoing. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Trung. Any other speakers for this report? I'll put the motion to a vote. Those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. Okay, councillors. The next one's a block motion, reports 12.14 to 12.18. Could I please have a councillor that would move that as a block? Councillor Goodachare.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I will move that reports 12.14 to 12.18 be moved as a block.
Okay, Councillor Goodachare, do you mind reading that statement in reference to accordance with clause 50 with number 2 in the brackets? Does she have that? We can't hear you. Sorry, Councillor Goodachare.
Sorry, Madam Mayor. Yes.
Okay.
The council moves and considers reports 12.14 to 12.18 in a block with motions as per the officer recommendation in these reports.
Okay. Thank you for that. Do I have a seconder for this? Councillor David? Would the mover like to speak to this? I can't hear. Sorry.
No, thank you, Madam Mayor.
Okay, would the seconder like to speak to this? No. Any other speakers for this report?
No, no thanks. Thank you.
Okay. The audio is not very good at the moment. Okay, do I have any others, any other councillors that would like to speak to any of these contracts? Okay, I'll put the motion to a vote. Those in favour? Against? Carried. Did I miss a step? Oh, okay. Item 13, notices of motion. There are 2 notices of motion for consideration. Councillors, I remind you that a notice of motion must be moved as printed in the papers, and only if seconded can an amendment be moved. All right. The first notice of motion is by Councillor Farm, and it's on the pedestrian and road safety in Main Road East, St Albans. Councillor Farm, would you like to move that motion?
Yes, please, Madam Mayor. I would like to move the motion that Council write to the Minister of Roads and Road Safety and the Transport Accident Commission, the Hon Jala Beaufort MP, requesting an urgent assessment of pedestrian and road safety along Main Road East, St Albans, between St Albans Road and Stradbroke Ride, and implementation of safety treatment to address identified issue. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Farm. Minute taker, could you stop sharing the screen? Thank you. Councillors, do you have any questions or points of clarification for Neil Whiteside? No. Do I have a seconder for this report? Councillor Allen? Would the mover like to speak to this report? Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would like to address some of the background behind this notice of motion, that there are a number of pedestrian and road safety concerns at Main Road East, St Albans, between St Albans Roads and Stradbroke Ride. In particular, concerns have been raised with the entrance exit with Woolworth car park, where many near misses occurs. Notwithstanding, Woolworths have undertaken a number of road safety measures, there are still concerns regarding pedestrian and road safety in this area. Further, there is a speed zone issue along Main Road East between the 40 km/h strip shopping centre speed zone at View Street and the 40 km/h school speed zone at Walmer Avenue. The issue is there is a short section of 60 km/h speed zone in Main Road East between the 40 km school speed zone at St Albans Secondary College and the 40 km/h trip shopping centre speed zone at St Albans CBD. So this short section of road, approximately about 120 metres in between the 40 km/h zone is 60 km/h. So the Department of Transport have been requested to remove this short section of 60 km/h zone and install 40 km/h speed zone, make it a consistent of 40 km/h speed zone during the 40 km/h operational time. So council officer understand that the Department of transport are still investigating and seeking funding. With also we have the police report crashes that there have been 2 pedestrian crashes in the last 5 years of collision data available to council. One outside Woolworth and the other one at the intersection of Manroe East and Erica Street. There are also 2 vehicle collisions at Manroe East and Collins Street, and 2 vehicle and 1 pedestrian crash at intersection of Manroe East, View Street, and 1 pedestrian and 1 vehicle collision at the intersection of Manroe East and Bursey Street. And there are many more crashes recorded along remaining section of Manroe East to the east and Manroe West to the west. And also toward my own experience and a lot of that driving along that part of the road, sometimes quite scary because I don't know when the car gonna be turning out, and then when should I keep moving. Not only that, even when I'm walking along that path, because the car have to concentrate on, you know, the ongoing car that turning or going straight. A lot of time they can't see the pedestrian that walking along the footpath. So I think it's a real concern there. Also speaking to some of the local shop owners across the road from the Woolwood car park, they were saying that sometimes their heart would jump out because
You've got 1 more minute.
Yeah, because they feel that the car nearly actually just run straight into their shop, and you know, I think it's a very dangerous part of the road, considering there's school nearby, community center, playground, you know. So that's why I would recommend this noted motion to be supported. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Farn. Councillor Allen, would you like to speak to this?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And thank you to Councillor Farn for putting this forward. If ever you've driven, I mean, I drive there every weekend, you know it. Residents know it. If you're crossing the road, you've experienced it so many times, especially at Woolworths. You'll be pulling out of Woolworths, turning onto Main Road, and it is a blind corner. I mean, I've done construction, health and safety, OH&S, and you know that for every 1 accident, there could be dozens of near misses. I feel like nothing's going to happen until something bad, grim happens, and we don't want it to come to that. We don't want to be the people to say, "I told you so." We don't want that. We want to be proactive, not reactive. It's not a hard thing to do. I don't understand why it's like pulling teeth. It's so hard. But hopefully with Councillor Farn's notice of motion, we can get to that step sooner. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Allen. Are there any other speakers for this notice of motion? Councillor Borg?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As a resident of St. Albans for the last 45 years, I am pretty familiar with this area and the pedestrian and road safety concerns. As already mentioned, there is an issue with the speed zone. The reduction of the speed from 60 kilometers per hour to 40 kilometers per hour can make a difference between life and death, considering not only the location, but also the high volume of vehicles and pedestrian movements. I would like to thank Councillor Pham for moving this motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other councillors? Councillor David? We can't hear you, Councillor David. Press.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a point of clarification, if I might. I always thought that that small section, travel section, I must say, in Melodies, is a 40-kilometre on peak hour, school hours and such. I think it is. I'm sure it is, I think. I remember, Madam Mayor, going back to 2005, when Councillor Taban and Councillor Judge, remember him? I was passing by that day and I saw him outside the shopping centre, and I said to him, Councillor Taban, what are you doing here? I'm waiting for the manager. That is a Woolworths manager, to speak to him about that travel spot at that time. I remember that well. And all these times, I'm sure someone must have come along to pinpoint something that perhaps we can make it better, safety point of view, at least for the people, not only the drivers and people getting in and out of the shopping centre, but the pedestrians as well. It's a travel spot, and something has to be done, Madam Mayor, eventually.
Thank you. Any other speakers? I'll put this, Councillor Truong.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yet I fully support Councillor Farm because I think in St. Albans it's very busy area, especially in Main Road East, on that area. In like after school, we will see a lot of students in around in that area, very dangerous. And I think we need to take action as soon as better. It's for safety for the member in the community. Thank you.
Thank you, councillors. I'll put this notice of motion to a vote. Those in favour? Against? Carried. And could I also thank Councillor Farm for bringing this to our attention. This road has been a great concern for many, many years. And I know when we first started as councillors, you brought this up. We didn't get enough attention or feedback from TAC, but we really need to take a strong stance on this, as last year there was a person killed at the lights. So thank you again for bringing it to our attention and to take some actions. Okay, our next notice of motion for tonight is 13.2, transport improvements for a COVID-19 recovery. Councillor Lancashire, this is your notice of motion, I believe.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would like to move that Council writes to the Minister for the Coordination of Transport, COVID-19, the Honourable Jacinta Allen MP, seeking A, implementation of additional bus services within Brimbank. B, an increase in funding for cycling infrastructure in order to ensure that social distancing requirements are facilitated as people begin a return to work. B, writes to the local state members of Parliament advising of Council's request to the Minister for the Coordination of Transport COVID-19, the Honourable Jacinta Allen MP, and C, request the Chief Executive Officer to explore other opportunities for improved cycling infrastructure to be implemented in Brimbank.
Thank you, Councillor Lancashire. Thank you. Do I have a seconder for this notice of motion? Councillor Borg. You're on the ball tonight, Councillor Borg. Well done. Okay. Councillor Lancashire, would you like to present or talk to this notice of motion, please?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The coronavirus COVID-19 pandemic has had a significant impact on transport and travel demand across Melbourne, with many people changing their travel behaviour in response to social distancing guidelines. As the state and federal government begin to ease travel restrictions, patronage on Melbourne's public transport has not shown the same increase in activity compared to road traffic, reflecting federal government advice to avoid public transport use during peak periods and highlighting ongoing public concerns about the ability of public transport to safely accommodate demand in the new age of social distancing. The lockdown restrictions have also been coupled with a sharp increase in bicycle sales and an uptake in cycling along many of Melbourne's recreational trails. The Federation Trail in Brooklyn, for example, saw a 106% increase in bicycle volumes during April and May when compared to the same period in 2019. While the state government continues to urge as many people as possible to work from home to do so, it is important to highlight that during 2016 census, the percentage of people who worked from home in Brimbank was half that of the Greater Melbourne average. With road congestion already a serious concern for council prior to the pandemic, it is vital that public transport remains a safe and viable option for our community in order to prevent our road network becoming gridlocked. It is also important that cycling infrastructure is funded to support the recent increase in cycling activity within our municipality. With COVID-19 pandemic presenting a compelling reason for many people to consider their travel choices, it is important that our community have access to as many transport options as possible to ensure that they can safely access jobs, education, and other services without risking the further spread of coronavirus and limiting the risk of a second wave infection. I recommend the notice of motion to councillors. Thank you.
Thank you. Well said. Could I ask Councillor Bork, would you like to present to this report?
Just briefly, Madam Mayor, I would like to reiterate Councillor Lancashire's comments. The popularity of walking and cycling has increased since the coronavirus and the subsequent need for social distancing. The need for a cycling and walking infrastructure is paramount for people to feel safe while commuting to and from work and other places. The RACV is calling for metropolitan councils across Melbourne to follow the City of Melbourne's lead to create pop-up bike lanes and wider footpaths as we emerge from lockdown. There is also a need for extra buses, especially during peak times. Lots of school children travel to and from school by bus. Within the current services, it's impossible to maintain social distance. I had such an experience myself about 2 weeks ago when I caught a bus from High Point. There were only 3 passengers, and by the time we got to Sunshine, the bus was fully packed with school children. I would like to thank Councillor Lancashire for moving this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bork. Are there any other speakers for this notice of motion? Okay, I'll put it to a vote. All those in favour? Against? Carried. And thank you, Bruce, for putting that together for us. Well done. Okay, item 14, notices of motion rescission. There are no rescission motions. Item 15, urgent business. CEO, is there any urgent business?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. There is one item of urgent business. As discussion of the matter may disclose personal information, my recommendation is that Council considers whether to admit the item as urgent business only after closing the meeting to maintain confidentiality. Thank you.
Okay, councillors, as the next item is okay, sorry about that. I was talking to myself there. All right, councillors, as the next item is a confidential business item, an option is to alter the order of business so that we consider the urgent business item after 16.1 and 16.2 and as part of item 16 so that the chamber can remain closed. Do I have a mover of a motion to alter the order of business? Councillor Lancashire.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move that the item listed as item 15 on the agenda be considered after the item listed as item 16.2. 2, Council declares confidential in accordance with section 77(2)(b) of the Local Government Act 1989 on the grounds provided in section 3(1)(f) of the Local Government Act 2020, the item listed as item 15 on the agenda on the basis that it contains personal information. And 3, in accordance with sections 66(2)(a) of the Local Government Act 2020 and 77(2)(b) of the Local Government Act 1989, the meeting be closed to members of the public for the consideration of 16.1, 16.2 and urgent business on the grounds provided in section 3(1) of the Local Government Act.
Thank you, Councillor Lancashire. Do I have a seconder for this item? Councillor Goodicek. Okay, I'll put it to a vote. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. Item 16, confidential business. We're not sharing the screen? Okay, thank you. Thank you to everyone who is currently viewing the live stream of this meeting. This meeting will now be closed to members of the public who will be placed in the holding bay for the duration of the consideration of the confidential items. As the last item for this evening, members of the public may wish to cease viewing, in which case I would like to thank you for your interest in tonight's meeting. We will reopen the meeting to the public to formally close this meeting after these items are considered by Council. This meeting is now closed to members of the public at 9:21 p.m. I thank you again for your patience, everyone. I declare this meeting reopened at 10:44 p.m. Council has considered the confidential items and resolved it will remain confidential at this stage. Thank you all for attending and for your interest in tonight's meeting. I declare this meeting closed at 10:45 p.m. I instruct the host to stop recording of this meeting. Thank you.